Hello everyone, how are you doing? So I've got a tip for you today. I really want to talk about what makes a great teacher. There's things that come up when you're teaching in the adult education space, sometimes that you can't plan for and you can't prepare for. And this is one of the most amazing, beautiful things about teaching in the adult education space, about teaching in the post-compulsory education sector. Because the great thing about adult education is that students can enroll themselves in programs. They can enroll themselves without being forced into doing so through, the requirements of a formal institution. And this is really cool for us as educators because this keeps the variety in our job. We never know what we're going to get. We cannot predict it. And adults naturally bring with them a whole range of experiences, a whole range of life situations that they've been through and got through. And this provides a wealth and a source and abundance of training that we can then pull out of them to embed all kinds of different learning experiences into the way that they learn. We can contextualize any kind of topic to their own unique experiences and make their training relevant to their lives. Also, that means that they bring into the training experience a whole range of experiences and expertise that actually can then inform the training itself. I found as an educator, there have been many times standing at the front of my room where I've had students teach me things. I've had students inform my actual course itself by the contributions that they've made. And that is just magical. Now, here's the thing though, sometimes you're going to get students that maybe have done things or do things that completely disalign to your own morals and your own ethics. Now, when you are delivering accredited training or when you're delivering training that has some kind of safety element to it or is aligned to training in a way that requires a prerequisite, meaning that in order for someone to safely and efficiently complete the training at the level that it's being trained at, you have to provide some form of pre-assessment to see whether or not they are going to be capable of achieving the outcomes. Now, let's pretend, for instance, I'm going to learn how to be a pilot. A prerequisite might be that I have to have a certain level of vision. It may be that I have to have a certain level of hearing ability so that obviously I can listen to communications that are coming through the walkie-talkie. So that's what we mean by prerequisites. Now, the thing is, when you are delivering non-accredited training, you don't have to do any form of pre-assessment. It's not a requirement. It's not stipulated in any way. Of course, it's very good practice too. Now, I talk a lot in my book here and in my online course, How to Create Profitable Courses, about creating what I call ipsative assessment and pre-assessments. There's many different ways that you can do that using Google Forms. If you go to sarahcordiner.com/pre-course, you can see an example of a pre-course assessment. And this is to collect data about your students, about the skills that they have, their past qualifications and training they may or may not have, and so on, so that you can then design a training program that really suits their individual needs and helps them attain the learning outcomes of that particular program. Now, anyway, let's by the by aside of pre-assessments, they only collect the information that you require to make sure that the training is going to suit those individual needs or any special educational needs that they may have. Meaning there is a whole heap of stuff that pre-assessments, no matter how well done, are going to miss out and are not going to collect the information that you might need about your learners. Now, a little story about me. I actually started my career as an educator teaching in the prison system. So one of my first posts as a teacher trainer, fresh in study, was to teach a whole range of training programs and design the training programs for an all-male prison. And that was quite an experience, I must admit, for my first time teaching. You can imagine how well it went down. Some young blonde female trying to teach in an all-male prison, which was a remand prison, so therefore had a complete mix of all different types of offenders that were in there. So yes, I was working in a classroom with rapists, with paedophiles, with murderers, with thieves, with crooks, with all kinds of criminals and con artists, real ones, real bad ones too. And I really had this sense of trepidation before I was going to walk into that classroom, because obviously I have my own pre-existing feelings about those types of crimes. I have my own sense of morals and rights and ethics that I've been brought up with, and how I feel about people who commit those types of crimes. times. And here I was now walking into a situation where I had to put all of that aside if I was going to deliver a quality learning experience and take my students on the appropriate journey to deliver them the results and the outcomes that they were on that course for. If I was going to deliver those results, if I was going to create transformation, if I was going to create efficacious learning journeys, if I was going to create successful, transformed, better people, it's absolutely critical that I walk into that environment and let go of all of my ideas of what's right and wrong. I have to let go of whatever my students may have done before they walked into my classroom. And I also have to let go of any form of responsibility of what they might continue to do after they've left my classroom, because that has nothing to do with my role as the educator, which is solely to help that student achieve and progress what they've come to that classroom to achieve and progress towards. So this can be really challenging for us as educators. Obviously the prison system that I started teaching in was certainly one of the most immersive ways of having to learn this, of having to learn how to disassociate the actions and the behaviours of my students and focus entirely on getting that result, on taking them to where they need to go. And I can tell you now, the level of professionalism that requires and the level of care that requires to your students' results is absolutely immeasurable, because that has to be the only thing that you care about in that situation, more than what people wear, what they do, what they say, who they associate themselves with, and so on. You just can't control that with adult learners. So there are going to be times perhaps that are less extreme examples where you may have adult learners that just don't have diets that you don't agree with, or date partners that you don't agree with, or have certain kinds of religious beliefs that you don't agree with, or do things in their spare time that you don't agree with, or run their business in a way that you don't agree with. But the thing is, if you are a good teacher, if you're a quality teacher, if you're a professional teacher, you put that aside, because the only thing that is important is delivering for that learner what you promised. That, my dear friends, is what I learned from rapists, thieves and murderers, how to be a very, very quality trainer. Another thing that makes a great trainer is having respect for all of your students. So again, simply just ignoring the fact that you do or don't like what they have or haven't done, you still can't teach your students as if they are some kind of item, some kind of inanimate object. You actually then have to take this professionalism to a whole other level. So not only do you now have to let go of your thoughts and your feelings about what they may or may not have done or may not go and do after your teaching session, you now actually have to care about them and like them. You have to respect them for the human being that they are. You have to respect what they bring to that training room that's going to contribute. Because here's the thing, guys. How can you encourage people to be better and do better and transform themselves, their lives, their behaviours, their attitudes, their skills and their knowledge if you're not prepared to invest in them and believe that they are able to be better? How can you expect anyone to change if you don't believe that they can change? And this is critical if you wish to be any kind of educator that's going to make a difference in anyone's lives, let alone an industry, let alone to planet Earth. If you can't put that at the core of everything you do when you walk into a classroom, when you sit down with an individual, when you write a blog post, when you film a video, when you do a boot camp, if that's not at the core of everything you do as some form of educator or edupreneur, then I would be asking you, why are you doing what you're doing? Because caring is the core of building somebody's educational efficacy. Now, my life, guys, could have been really, really different. And if any of you do go and buy this book, plug, that you will see how actually my life nearly went down two very, very different roads. And it was somebody's care and belief in the fact that I could change my life around that enabled that actually to happen. And I've dedicated this book to two of the people who did that for me. Now, my life was in a situation where I could have turned very much the wrong way. It was when I was failing in all of my exams. I came from a personal background that was swinging me towards maybe the darker sides of planet Earth. And I failed everything. I gave up on life. I believed I was stupid. I believed I was incapable of learning. The whole world was attacking me. You're shit. You can't do this. You're incapable. Go and do something else. You can't be successful. You can't achieve. You're horrible, you're mean, you're rubbish, blah, blah, blah. And the thing is, If that's all I'd listened to and if that's all who'd been around me, I probably would have ended up in the dark side. In fact, I know I would, because if there was no other reason to see a light side, how could I have changed? But guys, one day an educator walked into my life and believed in me. One day an educator walked into my life and saw that somewhere inside me there were skills, there were abilities, there was an ability to learn, there was an ability to change, there was an ability to adapt. And all he had to do was just show me that. All he had to do was tell me and show me that I could change, show me that I had skills, show me that I had the ability to learn new ways of doing things, new strategies, new ways of applying myself. And that created for me, which I believe is one of the most powerful things you can ever give to a student, which is something called educational efficacy. Now, those of you who haven't heard of the term efficacy is this: belief in your abilities to achieve certain results. Belief in your abilities to achieve a certain result. So this doesn't mean that you're good at something. This doesn't mean that you have to be amazing at something. It doesn't mean actually that you have to have any idea whatsoever what that something is at all. All it means is that you have to kind of go, do you know what? I'll figure this out. I'll find a way, because somewhere inside me there's some kind of ability that's going to help me get through this. That is educational efficacy, and that is what can change somebody's life. When you help somebody see that they are capable of achieving a certain result, of achieving a certain desired outcome, of having some form of ability within them to make change in their life and be and do different, then you change the world. That, my dear friends, is what I believe makes a truly, truly great teacher. So the next time that you are challenged by a client, by a customer, by a student, by a learner, because you don't believe in the way that they do things, by the way that they live, by the way that they practice, by the way that they speak, by the things that they do, remember, please remember, if you want to change the world, if you want to change somebody's life, if you want to make them better, you need to see beyond that and focus on the results and the outcomes that you are there to give. So I hope that helps you guys really see how important this is. If you can walk out of a room having taught somebody nothing other than given them some belief in their own abilities to achieve and change and be something more than they are today, then you, my friend, are one of the world's best educators, and I will stand very proud beside you. So keep going, guys. Build educational efficacy and believe in your students. Put everything else aside, because that is all that's important as a trainer. Over and out.